So, hello everybody, how y'all doing? I know it's been a while since I've made a video about Windows specifically, and I have been gone for a while. Reason why I didn't come back yet is I didn't feel like showing anything special or anything that important because it really wasn't sort of my jam. And seeing as I've spent quite a while tinkering around in Windows and just trying to squeeze the absolute most out of it, I think I have a setup now that works even better than it did before, with a ton more resources available, not only to myself, but I also tried it with a couple of my friends, and I'm replying every single tweak. So please go watch the previous video, because this is the continuation of the first one. Um, it There's a lot of stuff we have to talk about, a lot of things we have to discuss, but basically there's a ton of stuff you can do to improve the performance within Windows and get the most out of it. Now, as I'm recording, you can see I have only 5% of CPU utilized, and it's on a clean install of Windows 10. A clean install which has a bunch of my programs installed, but there's almost no background tasks running. Only OBS right now recording the screen with everything. And I want to show you my CPU usage. I just took a screenshot after rebooting the machine and killing some apps like Msi Afterburner and such, which people are not gonna have running in the background if they play on gaming. If they have a overclocking profile, they will have Msi Afterburner running, so that's another piece of bloat running in the background, but that's up to you. If you have a powerful enough CPU, you're not gonna notice it. That said, around 1% CPU usage, 9% memory usage, it may seem extreme now, but let me show you something. So this was taken right away, zero disk usage almost, no network, no GPU usage, a pretty much clean baseline install with almost no RAM use. Now, 9% of memory in my system is almost nothing basically. So let me show you. So we are using now 11% of memory. I have a new machine, so I upgraded to my new workstation, which is Alminista. Those who watched some of my live streams previously know I upgraded recently to this workstation. I upgraded it a bit more, got more storage. I'll be getting a new CPU cooler soon because temperatures, but it's running quite well at pretty decent speeds. Almost no CPU utilization during recording. That wasn't the case on my previous setup. On my previous setup, we saw around 15 to 20, if not 40% CPU utilized, and that's why I couldn't stream that many games. Even after you cleaned up install, it went down to like 20 to 10%, but that was me streaming and recording at a much lower quality. So if we open up OBS here, since I have a much more powerful setup, and we go to output, we're using hardware AMD encoding, and we look over here, we're recording at 1080p. I have set the canvas to 1080p, so if it seems a bit differently, that's, I believe, normal. I don't have a 1080p display as of yet, so that's why. Memory usage, again, bear in mind it has OBS running in the background, so around 500 megs less, so 5 to 600 megs less in terms of memory use. So that would be around 3 gigs. So a pretty clean flatlining installation of Windows with no crap, no nothing running in the background. And I have 2 hard drives in here. A 1 terabyte one, which I have for different storage. We will cover everything. A 2 terabyte one for just gaming, nothing else. The reason why this one is used is that I'm recording to it right now, so it's not touching my SSD, which is a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. It's really freaking fast on this machine. And I also have a better graphics card, a RX 480. I also am recording at much higher resolution and a much higher quality than before. I'm forcing a upsampling so that the text is really sharp. So that's why my GPU utilization is so fucking high. I could reduce it. I really could, but I want it to be recorded at the highest quality possible right now. Otherwise, it's chilling at 0%, as you saw previously. Anyway, what sort of things did I do to achieve this? So if we open up and go to my website, which has been updated recently to accommodate for some of the changes in everything, If you go here into my website and you go down here, you'll notice two more pages. One that is discussing my rig and one about Windows performance. This one, you have all the specs of my rig listed, all the stuff I did to get the most out of it. But that's not the entire part, that's not everything. There's quite a few things. For example, I'm linking you to a page where I applied all tweaks within Windows to get a ton of performance because Windows is just bloated and I do not want it to hinder my performance. So if we go there, we go that route, this is where we are right now. Basically, if you go to this website, I already published it. It's available on my website. You can go in there, look at it, apply those tweaks. I did some testing with some of my friends, and we noticed about 40% performance improvement, no matter on what piece of hardware they are. Now, obviously, if you are running a ultra low tier machine, the performance improvement may be greater. But some of my friends have high spec, high end machines. One of them having a 3070 in their machine and a really overkill CPU, so they can afford to have, they have the highest spec machine out of all of us, and it's incredible that he can afford that. Anyways, across the board and dialing down all the data, we saw about a 40% improvement in performance after applying tweaks from both part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is linking you to the previous video I did on my older Zenith build, my older Zenith machine. Administer, the machine that we're on right now, is basically, taking all those things that I did and amping it up even more because it's my main rig, it's my main machine. I want to be able to play games on it, record, live stream, do all those things. Obviously, if I want to do that, I can just lower the text quality back to billionaire and just leave it at that, no quality lost, right? But that's a tweak for another day with an OBS. For now, since I want the most, um, since I want the most, clear text so you guys can see everything, it's important for me you guys can see everything, so that's why I set it to a really absurd amplification in sharpness. So one thing you can do is you can open up device manager, which will always take a bit of time to load, and what you're looking for is go into system devices right here, and you want to find high precision event timer, set it to disabled, and then reboot. After doing so, it will give you a bit of performance. It's basically loosening up those timings a bit so that the CPU doesn't have to keep track as much. The less load we give the CPU, the better for us in our case here on this machine as well. So that's that. And make it disabled. Just right click, click disabled, or disable this device, and you're set. Then you can reboot if you want to, but you don't need to. In terms of enabling ultimate performance, let me show you. I can type apparently. Power edit power plan. You'll notice I'm running under ultimate performance already. Why does it keep on turning off my displays? I don't know. But I'm running under ultimate performance already. I enabled the power plan fairly simply, just by going to CMD as an administrator, so run as administrator. It will ask you to run it as administrator. And what you want to do is you want to copy this thing right here. So we just copy this, Control Shift V, or right click it, hit enter, it will add it as a power plan, saying ultimate performance plan, or whatever it is in your language. After that, just go into power plan, choosing your power plan, the power options in the control panel, and pick ultimate performance, and then tweak it a bit if you want to. Basically what I see here. Clearing standby memory. So if we go into resource monitor, it takes a while to load, but as you can see, a pretty minimal footprint. I have 32 gigs of RAM in this machine, and I have fairly low standby memory. If you ever opened this at any point or any time during the day without doing these cleanups, you'll notice that your standby memory is either totally full or halfway full. In my case, it was halfway full. It wasn't ideal. So one thing I did is I went ahead and downloaded a empty stable list program. So if you, my bad, let me just go back here and open it in a new tab. So if you go here into this, you can download it right here just by clicking this. One thing I would suggest you do is create a folder on your C drive if you can. So go over here and create an empty standby list program folder and put the program in there. Once you have this exact structure you see here with the file in it like this, you don't have to touch anything. Leave it as it is. Just in case, right click it, go into properties. You can unblock it if you want. I'm leaving it as is, but it's working as it should. I did test this. It's keeping it clean every few minutes. So yeah, not every few seconds. That would be ridiculous. Every few minutes is more than enough. It will just turn on the program, quickly clean it, turn itself off. Which I can actually show you. So you can see we have around 400 to 500 megs of memory. I double click this, I click run, and watch this. 500. 101, 102. Did it get cleaned? I guess it didn't. But in some cases, it will just shoot up. And in case you don't have any programs running, which I do have running, in case we didn't have anything running, it would get cleaned. But normally you would see 4 gigs or even 8 gigs, if not more. I once had 16 gigs of RAM just in standby memory. The reason why I'm mentioning this, it's important to keep this clean. If you don't, you'll see some performance degradation, if not stuttering and such. So once you have that, I also detailed here the steps, just put it in that folder. What you want to do next is you want to download this XML file. What this XML file is, it's for the task scheduler. So if you search for task scheduler and you open it, it will open up with this scary window. And one thing you want to do is you want to click import task. You click this, and then you navigate to where your XML file is and click open. And that's it, you don't have to do anything. So if I select this, it's being run every 5 minutes indefinitely. So every 5 minutes it will get executed and clean, and it will clean up my standby memory. So you can imagine it's very handy because depending on the amount of apps you have open, it will keep regenerating or generating even more standby memory depending on what kinds of apps you're running and what data they're accessing. So for example, if you're playing a game that has to access a large pool of data, sometimes there's garbage that's not even needed necessarily anymore, but it's not held by the application anymore, but it's sitting there in memory. So what it will do, it will go in and it will be like, hey, this is not needed, let's take it out. Sometimes it will relieve a ton of memory during your gaming session, and honestly, if you do not have at least 16 gigs of RAM in your system nowadays, it's pretty much a bummer, and this is pretty much a necessity. Now, as I said, I have 32 gigs of system memory in my workstation here. 42 gigs of RAM with all 4 DIMMs populated in my machine. So, yeah, bear that in mind. All the conditions and settings, leave them as they are. Don't do anything. Leave it as it is. And, yeah, you should be fine. Just leave it as it is, and it will automatically clean your entire standby list. Basically what it is, it's data that the applications are expecting to be accessing anytime soon, so they're keeping it in memory to make it faster. Once you import the task, it should be imported and working right away, and every 5 minutes it will go and clear itself out. Now, a pretty important thing to apply as well is you open up command prompt. So open up CMD and you run as an administrator if possible again. And what you want to do here is you want to take these 2 commands, punch them in one by one. Once you do that, it will make sure that these settings will work properly. It's a bit of a more of like a step up to make sure it's not generating as much of the data, but it will keep it cleaning more periodically and making sure that it keeps on cleaning. So the program that we've downloaded, the empty standby list program, is more of a safety measure to ensure it gets cleaned. Anyways, for the keyboard tweaks, really simple one. Just open up your control panel and you want to find your keyboard. So click on keyboard over here. You'll notice this, put it to short, put it to fast, and that's it. That's all you're gonna have to do. Short and fast, that's it. Under mouse, which is the next one, you wanna find mouse. Mouse is right over here in the control panel. Over here, go into pointer options. Disable enhanced pointer precision. Just disable it. It's full of shit. Disable it. And I recommend setting it to about the 7th notch. Now it is detailed in here, I think. It's not, but there will be more mentioned in the later stages. But basically, disable enhanced pointer precision is the main one, so just disable it and keep your mouse movement as you prefer it. I have it set to like 7 because that's something I'm used to on my mouse, so that's what I'm using. You don't have to use the exact same setting, just make sure that this is unticked and you should be fine. Hit OK and you should be ready to rock. In terms of lowering audio, this one is pretty important and makes a pretty big difference. So what you want to do is you want to go into your control panel again if you can, and what you want to find is sound. So click over here on sound. Why do I have NDFS6 of it NDGPU? Anyway, you want to disable every single audio device you're not using. Just to do it, disable every audio device you're not using. I'm using only this one, so make sure every single one is disabled or unplugged, if possible. As you can see, it's disabled over here from the AMD GPU side. At least I think over here is the AMD stuff. But make sure that you have every single other unused audio device disabled. If you're not using it, there's no point in keeping it on and wasting not only resources but also your audio bandwidth. So disable each and every one of these and go into your main audio device by double clicking it. Go into enhancements, disable all enhancements. Self-explanatory, just do it. Disable all enhancements. Go under advanced and set this to 16-bit 44.1K CD quality and untick both of these boxes under exclusive mode. Under spatial sound, set this to off and hit apply. This will cause your audio to reset, so just don't worry if you don't hear me for a few seconds. It will reset your audio, but trust me, do this not only for your output, which is for my speakers over here, which are my headphones that I use right now. So just set it and you should be fine. Go into recording, do the exact same thing. Disable every other audio device that you're not using. Only the main one that you're using. Now, I'm using this microphone right now to record this audio, so I'm not gonna be disabling it. But if you go in here, go into listen, disable listening, continue running when on battery power, make sure that's on. Under levels, tweak it as you see fit. I got this tweak based on some of my friends' recommendations to make sure that everything sounds perfectly. Under here, go into default format. Set this to the exact same thing. Now I have it set to 24-bit. I might want to set it to 16-bit later, but the reason I have it at 24-bit is I want that slight bit of edge in the audio quality from my microphone. I don't want my teammates to think I'm talking from a fucking toaster. So this is the only exception I'll make to the rule, but make sure that the frequency is the same. That's the main thing. The frequency has to stay the same. You don't want two different frequencies being mismatched and causing interference potentially. Once you're done with that, go into sounds, you can leave it as is. Communications, you can set it to do nothing when other sounds are playing. I have it set to reduce by 80%. I'm gonna set it to do nothing. It's something I used before, didn't use it for a while. I'm gonna use it again. And that's pretty much it when it comes to that. So, yeah. And primary audio device input, communications do nothing. That's what we've just discussed. So another thing, turning off fast startup. So go to your control panel once again and go to your power options. Under power options, go to choose what the power buttons do. So click over here. Click this shielded thing. They're currently unavailable. And untick fast startup and hibernation. This will increase your boot up times, but there's one more thing it will do. What this will do, this will force Windows to fully reset. If you've noticed ever, if you turn off your computer, it actually keeps on running in the background. It keeps on collecting garbage. So what we will not do is we want to force it like, hey, don't do this. Don't collect anything that's not important, not necessary. So by unticking this, we're turning off fast boot. And trust me, this fixes a lot more problems than it causes. It fixes a ton of problems because, quite frankly, fast boot under Windows is broken and it should not be used. So make sure that's unticked. And hibernation. I'm on my desktop computer. I don't need it to hibernate. I can just set it to sleep and be done. Or just lock it if I want to. But make sure you have turn on fast startup or turned off and hibernation. This will fix single-handedly a ton of issues within Windows after you reboot. Sometimes even rebooting doesn't fix things, like you have a ton of problems, so this will fix a ton of problems for you if running into issues with startup, issues with applications not running properly. Untick this. It will fix a ton of those things. Just do it, just untick it. Also, nowadays, that having an SSD is not an excuse. So if you're running still on a spinning Rust on a spinning hard drive, I feel you, because up until recently I was using just a hard drive in my main system. This new workstation that I've got, this new machine, really amazing. By the way, you can check out the specs on my website. I'm running it from a M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD, a 1TB drive. Blazing fast, turns on in a few seconds, I can get straight into gaming or doing anything I want. Or even watching porn, who cares? So, after doing this, there's some other things you can do. One thing I'd highly recommend if you're planning on keeping some other applications running in the background, which you shouldn't, but let's say you're talking to the boys on Discord, which we do on Fridays later, which, speaking of which, today's Friday, so me and the boys will be playing some games today, so really lovely stuff. Really well spent time, looking forward to it. Have a bunch of water ready just so we can stay here online for a few hours at a time having a blast. Anyways, make sure to just disable hardware acceleration, turn it off whenever possible. For example, I'm running Microsoft Edge. You can think of it whatever you want. I'm using Edge. I don't care what you guys think. Go in there, type in hardware, and you'll see use hardware acceleration when available. Make sure that's turned off. And startup boost, I got that turned off. And also continue running background extensions and apps when Edge is closed. Turn this off. This will make sure that it's not running in the background, it's not using any more resources than necessary. If I turn off my browser, I want it to stay turned off. So make sure that that's unticked. I have hardware acceleration turned off in Steam, my web browser, Discord, everywhere, even on my chatting apps like Messenger, also turned off. And also my other instance of Edge that I use for listening to music through YouTube Music, also hardware acceleration turned off. It will result in slightly higher CPU usage, but with using the right extensions and tweaks, you can mitigate those things. If you want to see a video about that, just let me know in the comment section below. It will be really lovely. So, after doing all that, we can also have a look at another setting. So if you hit this lovely start button, which you can hit with the Windows key on your keyboard, or just hitting this Windows key down here and going here into settings, there's a few things you want to do. So first of all, you want to search for background apps. To make it easier, just search it. So type in background, and you'll see background apps over here. So click that. And under here, you want to turn off background apps you do not need running in the background that are not that important. Armory Crate is from my motherboard. I just have to leave it running in the background. Ear Trumpet, a really cool extension I highly recommend everyone to use if they're not using it anyway. If you have a bunch of apps open that have playback, like different audio sources, I highly recommend you install this extension. It will give you a more Windows 7 style like mixer that you can tweak right from this dashboard, and you don't have to deal with anything. This is the original one, so you can already see a difference. So hide the original one and keep the Ear Trumpet one over here. As you can see, you have Windows Legacy sound settings and volume mixer. There's also some settings for Ear Trumpet you can do, but that's what I'm using for the audio mixer. So just a little tidbit. Turn off every other app you're not using. So calculator, camera, maps, photos, Microsoft Store, turn that off as well. Minecraft Launcher, turn that off as well. I leave the Xbox app and YouTube Music app because I want to get the achievements whenever I'm playing any games. For example, like Forza Horizon 5, an amazing title, by the way. Absolutely love it. Got it recently. Can't stop playing it. iTunes and other things. So just make sure to turn all those other things off, just so it doesn't use any unnecessary resources. So, since we're in the settings, there's a few more things we can apply apart from the last video. So make sure you have all the tweaks from the previous video applied before going to this one. Make sure to reboot after that one, continue with this one, then reboot as well. Anyways, under settings, you want to go into your normal settings, so go back. And since we were in privacy, we're gonna have to get in there again, so privacy. And under privacy, you want to go into camera and untick everything that's in there. So basically go into camera, make sure this is ticked on, but tick off every single Microsoft Store app, but leave it for OBS and Discord on, or any other chatting app you're using. I use it in OBS right now, that's why I'm not telling you take this and have it turned off fully. It is a neat privacy thing, but if I have to record something and have my webcam on, like in this case, it's not ideal, so that's why I'm keeping it on but turning it off in the Microsoft apps. Like, why the fuck does Microsoft Store need your camera? I don't understand. So, next, you wanna go under notifications. Obviously you have to find it first, so notifications. Allow apps access to notifications, make sure that's on. But, for some reason it's not loading everything. Okay, it should load with other things. It didn't load with things, so maybe it's under different settings, maybe. In case it's not in here, as it should be with all the other settings, you can just search it over here to notifications and find notifications and actions. So it was under home system. Oh, it was under system, my bad. So under system, notifications and actions. Turn off, untick everything here and untick notifications. Sometimes when you get a notification, it will actually waste resources to render stuff. And even if you untick this and leave these on, it will still render the notifications in the background. So what you want to make sure you do is you untick everything and then turn this off. You can then leave these on because it won't matter, but make sure that everything else is turned off. What this will do, however, is it will prevent notifications like from Messenger and Discord showing up, and other applications as well. So really think about it if you want that extra 1 or 2 frames, or if you're just fine leaving your system with sending you notifications. I personally find them annoying, I turn them off. Under focus, it says since we are not getting notifications, there's no point. So I'm turning it off and keeping everything else as is, so it doesn't really matter. Next, a pretty important thing under here, tablet. So go under tablet, never use tablet mode and don't switch to tablet mode. You're on a desktop, you do not need tablet mode, so make sure that's turned off. Okay, under multitasking, this is a fun one. Leave snap windows on, but untick this. What this will do is if I snap this, you don't get any annoying extra suggestions. So it works more like snapping under Windows 7 did. So if you want this, untick that. Also another thing, untick show suggestions in your timeline. What that is basically, if you remember, the multitasking button, which I will bring back just to show you this. If I can find it, that is. Maybe I cannot even show this. Maybe it was somewhere, don't know where. Over here, task view button. So if I click this, normally you would see a timeline down here, but since I don't need it, I'm gonna untick it. But basically, disabling it will save some more resources since you're not needing it, you're not using it. Under Alt Tab, this will have set the most annoying feature in here, so make sure to set it to open windows only. Since I'm using Edge, I can demonstrate this. You can see I'm cycling only through 3 apps. If I didn't set this, I'll be cycling through all my open tabs in Edge and all the apps I have open right now, which is not what I want. I want to be able to switch on the fly no matter what I'm doing. So, another thing, so display is over here under display. What you want to do is you want to go to advanced display settings and set your refresh rate to the highest available. In my case, I have a 60 Hz display connected to my RX 480 via an HDMI cable. So make sure to have it set to the highest refresh rate available, which in my case, my monitor allows me only 60. I'm fine with playing on 60 Hz. Bear in mind that if you do not see any more refresh rates in here, it can either be because of the cable you're using, the type of the cable, the length of the cable, the one who manufactured the cable, so the technology in it, or the monitor's limits, or the monitor's port used, or the monitor's technology and feature support. So make sure to check everything before you decide to go for a high refresh monitor. In my case, if you want to avoid all the headaches and have a really simple life, pick a 1080p display with 60 Hz and just be fine with it. Don't force yourself to think about it too hard. Pick the simplest option and just be done with it. Most of the time you won't even notice the difference anyways. So, with that said, we want to search for another setting within settings. Type in game mode. Go into game mode settings. Make sure this is turned on. Under captures, since we're here, turn everything off. Set this to 30 standard and capture mouse cursor. That's only because I'm using my OBS session, so that's why I'm leaving it on. But I'm turning everything else off. And set this to the lowest maximum possible. Under Xbox Game Bar, untick this, turn this off. It's bullshit, you don't need this, turn this off. So, another really cool thing, search for storage sense. If you go over here, turn on storage sense, it'll send you over here to where your main drive is, your main C drive, which in my case is on an SSD. So optimizations are really necessary. So what I recommend you do to keep it clean as possible, just go over here, turn this on and configure storage sense. Make sure it runs every single week. In terms of temporary files, make sure you delete temporary files, and delete files that are in the recycling bin or have been over there for over 14 days. You never know when you're gonna need those files later. I just leave it 14 days, which is a pretty neat balance, and it will just clean my recycling bin automatically without me having to think about it. Deleting files in your downloads. Obviously, since I have remapped my folder, which we'll go over to in a sec, I don't need to clean it. I can just leave everything in here and it will work just fine. It's on my other drive anyway, so I'm not wasting my SSD's resources on this. So, another really cool and neat thing we can apply is in msconfig. So click the start menu and type in msconfig. You should see an app called system configuration. Run that as administrator. What you want to do here is click onto boot, click advanced options, tick number of processors, select the highest number possible, click OK, and under here tick no GUI boot. It will speed up your booting times by quite a bit, so just make sure that has been set in order of improving your performance. On that topic, there's another thing. Type in advanced system settings, go into startup and recovery, untick these and pick only Windows 10 if you can, and untick all of this. That's another thing. I might have mentioned it before, just mentioning it again, just in case. You never know. Here comes the fun part. Oh, Regedit, yay. So, type in Regedit, which is the Registry Editor tool. Run it as administrator. Once you have that open, you wanna copy these keys right here and go and change some things in there one by one. So if you want to use those keys, just click over here, clear it out fully, paste in the new key. It'll be under profile. Under profile, set system responsiveness to 1 and network throttling index to 10. If it wasn't set already to 10, set it to 10. And system responsiveness, I believe it was at 10 originally, set this to 1. This makes a pretty big difference. Next is another key, a pretty important key, and it's under the tasks and gaming section. So just lock that in. If you want to delete it all right away, press Ctrl A and then Ctrl V to paste in the new key that you're looking for. And under here, you want to go and set SFPIO to high scheduling category to high, GPU priority to 8, and priority to 6. Set these settings like this and you'll have a higher forced utilization of your GPU. We will cover some more GPU settings in a moment. Next up, a really neat thing, go back into settings, go back home, and go into update and security. Now, update and security, make sure you postpone any downloads or anything so that Windows doesn't annoy you for a bunch of days. And go into advanced options. Under advanced options, untick everything. And untick this. Download updates over a metered connection, extra charges apply. Untick this. This is a pretty important thing. And don't show a notification when your PC requires a restart since we're not gonna use it. And set it to the highest possible date you can postpone those updates to, which in my case is in about a month, which is more than enough ample time to keep it all cleaned up. Under delivery optimization, untick this. You don't want to download any other unnecessary stuff from your machine's things. Mentioning the metered connection stuff, to set your connection as metered, it's really simple. Go into network and internet. On the network and internet, if you don't see your Ethernet adapter, you just go in here and you select it there. But under status, I see it over here. I click over here and click properties. Under properties, make sure to set it as metered. What it will force Windows to do, it will see that the connection is metered, therefore it won't be even attempting to download any Windows updates. And we all know how intrusive and annoying Windows updates are. So just make sure it's set as a metered connection and you're fine. So, what other things are there? So hard drive performance optimizations. Now on this one, I might spend a bit of a while explaining things because it's a doozy. But basically, look at the specs of your hard drive. You want to pick a pretty fast hard drive that has quite a bit of stuff at the ready. So let me show you something. So we go into pictures over here. You'll notice I actually used to have a picture here. I don't for some reason, which is annoying. I used to have one. I remember this. I don't. That's interesting. But you want to use something like a benchmarking tool to just make sure that you have a baseline to go off of. But basically, you want to pick up a drive that's pretty fast, so something at the rates of 70 to 100 RPM, with a pretty large cache size. For example, 128 megs is like good enough, but the higher the better. The highest amount of cache I've seen on a drive that's, well, not expensive is 256 megs, so I picked up that, and make sure it uses the SATA 6 gigabit interface, not the 3 gigabit interface. So this is the hard drive I have. It's the second drive in my system. Basically, it's this one right here, my Einstein drive, my 2 terabyte hard drive which stores all my games. The loading times are pretty serviceable after deploying all these tweaks. It doesn't take that long for all the games to run. It's pretty much almost unnoticeable. So it's just Windows. If you're running Windows off a hard drive and playing games off the same hard drive, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's just pain, so don't do that. So yeah, here are the specs if you want to. I might get a 4 terabyte one, who knows, it's up to me. One thing you want to do right away is type in device manager again to open that thing up. Go into disk drives and pick, for example, I'll pick my secondary hard drive and click on properties. And go into policies and make sure enable write caching on the device and make sure this is turned off, unticked, because we want to make sure that we have write caching enabled, and the same goes for my second hard drive, which I have right here. It's also enabled to keep the speeds high, so make sure that that has been set as well. Which is everything over here. Next thing we want to disable is the page file on those drives. So go to Advanced System Settings and go into Performance. Under Performance, go into the Advanced tab. Go over here into the virtual memory. I have it disabled on all of my drives. Now bear in mind, I have 32 gigs of RAM in my system, and I ended at the highest point I've ever used memory was at around 23 gigs of RAM, and it was doing some video editing in a really heavy program, just trying it out. So I'm nowhere near about to max out my RAM in my system. Nowhere near. 32 gigs of RAM is plenty. If you're planning on just gaming, if you're planning on doing video editing, 64 gigs should be more than enough. Anyway, or if you're doing 3D modeling or CAD work, you need even more RAM, but that's beside the point. If you're planning on just gaming, 32 gigs of RAM is more than enough in your system. And turn off paging on all the drives. You shouldn't even have a page file on your SSD, that's why I have it disabled. You can just click the drive, click no, click set, click OK. If you have 2 drives, go in, after each, no paging file set, no paging file set, and then click OK so you don't have to reopen it again. And then hit apply, and it will ask you to reboot, and once you reboot, it should say 0 megabytes as it does here, and you should have no page file. The reason why we're avoiding the page file as much as possible is 1, using a page file will cause stuttering in case you run over your current memory pool. Some apps will or may require the usage of the virtual memory. I haven't encountered this yet, but in case you do run into this, go in here, look up how to optimize this for performance if you can, but I don't use it. I don't have a reason to use it, so I have it disabled. So it's just a bit of a suggestion right there for you. Anyways, settings virtual memory change, that's that. Right. So one thing what you want to do as well, and I haven't enabled this on the second drive, I'm realizing, so I can demonstrate this. So if you click any of your drives, any of your hard drives, click properties, and you want to go into, I think it was, where is it? Where was it? Set properties and allow files on the drive to have contents indexes, which is over here. It's ticked down here. Allow files on this drive to have contents indexed in addition to file properties. This will make looking up the files on that drive faster. If you go over here, it's ticked here as well, so it's enabled. And it will make sure that it's indexing all the files on that drive, and it will make it faster for searching and also for the programs to find them as quickly as possible. So make sure that's ticked on as well. One really major performance improvement you can do on your drive is, defragmenting and optimizing the drives themselves. So Windows has an integrated tool. If you type in defragment and optimize drives, that's the tool you're looking for. One thing I need to tell you, do not ever optimize your SSD. Never ever defragment it. Never ever defragment an SSD. It will get destroyed. Just saying. So go over here, pick one of your drives, click analyze or optimize if you want to, but here's a really neat thing. Go over here, click change settings. Under here, run on the schedule recommended, set it to be weekly. Under here, increase task priority if scheduled runs are missed. And under drives, choose your 2 hard drives, not the SSD. Choose your 2 hard drives. Picking an SSD here will be 1, destroying the SSD, killing its rating performance, and then you'll end up destroying it if you're not careful. So untick your SSD, take only your hard drives, and automatically optimize new drives if detected. Which, if you're installing an SSD, it's not a good idea, but generally Windows is smart enough to not optimize SSDs, because SSDs don't have any needs of optimization, since they're pretty fast on their own. It's flash memory, not spinning disks. So yeah, click OK. And click OK here as well, and what it will do, it will make sure that it's pretty much 0% fragmented all the time, keeping the performance as best as it can possibly be. Another important thing to mention, once I installed the second Tesla drive, it was 99% fragmented this morning, or yesterday night, so I had to let it run overnight, even on this drive as well. Once I finished downloading all the games, I let it defragment, so it has all the blocks of data for the games in one space, so it doesn't have to look for them. So it helps out with loading times and keeping your games loading times down. So yeah, save to weekly, it's priority, SSDs mentioned. another very important thing, this is with the task scheduler again. So we're gonna open up task scheduler again. We're getting back in here. If you expand this, you'll find Microsoft. Then you'll find, I think it was under Windows, and under here it was application experience. So find application experience. Under here you'll see 4 options. I have only 3. Here's why I have only 3. Delete Microsoft Compatibility, Appraiser, and Program Data Updater. What these do is they will analyze your hard drives or drives for any sort of information and end up working as telemetry for Microsoft to adjust your preferences. So what you want to do is you want to just delete them. They're not a core system functionality. You can delete them, therefore reduce the load on your drives. Remember what I showed you in the beginning with almost 0% on the drives when in use? That's what I'm talking about. I have 1% on the SSD for some reason. But sometimes I have 1% over here. This is the 2 terabyte. Here I have 2% since the one I'm recording to it. I have it set up to record to the hard drive, so I'm not wasting my SSD's performance on this. So that's why you see 2%. I'm recording to it right now as we speak. That's my D drive. This is where I keep my media files. So that's why it's recording to that. So do that. And another additional note is if you want to improve the lifespan of your drive or of your SSD. So if you have Windows and an SSD like I have, there's another really neat thing you can do to extend its life expectancy, and that is moving its downloads, documents, and other things over to a different drive altogether. Open up your File Explorer and right-click any one of these. For example, right-click Documents and click Properties. What you want to do is you want to go into Location. The location, click Move. When you click Move, pick the location of your documents. In my case, it's over here my D drive called Documents. So all my save files that get saved into Documents get moved as well. All my documents and text files I generate on the fly, they also get moved over as well. Some random text files generated by the programs themselves, settings of different programs, get moved over to that drive as well. You see my point? In case your Windows partition gets corrupt, you still have a backup on a different drive. This is why it's important to manage all your data. That's why I have 3 drives in my system right now. I use this drive for storing my downloads, pictures, videos, torrents, notes, and all various kinds of stuff. So I don't waste my space on my SSD, and I can also save all my recordings over to here. And this file seems to be quite large, not gonna lie, it might be even larger than before. But it's getting beefy, I believe. Maybe it will be even beefier after this recording session is done, but anyways. Just make sure you have this set up like I'm telling you, and you'll thank me later with the improved speed on your drive while you're downloading things. That's why I also keep my games on a different drive. So it doesn't stutter while I'm downloading files within my browser. So my browser is running from my SSD, downloads are being saved onto a second drive, but my games are running from a third drive. Everything is separated. That's why you need to balance everything. So yeah, just do that for every single one of these folders. I have it done for 3D objects, desktop, documents, downloads, music, notes, pictures, and videos, and everything. So everything gets saved into its own location, and it will not use any of my SSD's writing cycles, speed, and accessibility. So I get Windows the utmost performance it needs in order to work the fastest way possible. So, what else? So, as I said, I moved it to my secondary drive. Now, obviously, the drive is far worse in terms of specs than my main drive for my games. So, you want to choose the faster drive for your games, the faster or larger drive for your games, and for your not so important, well, somewhat important but not regularly accessed data, you want to make sure that you select a different drive. If you have 3 drives in my system, I have a M.2 SSD, a 2.5-inch hard drive for documents and download storage and other personal stuff, and a 3.5-inch 2 terabyte hard drive fast hard drive to store all my games onto, everything related to gaming on my computer. There would be also Minecraft and everything like that. It's all stored on that drive. It's not getting moved anywhere else. It's all on that one place. So yeah, just create it. Also do error checking on the regular. Basically what you want to do is, if you want to do error checking on your drive, just open your File Explorer, and you want to, let's say you want to check test level now. Actually, no, let's check Einstein, for example. Go to Properties. You want to go to Tools, and there's error checking. Click check, and it will check for errors on that drive. Since I'm not using it, it should be quite fast, but bear in mind, I already have a bunch of gigs of games on there, like hundreds of gigs of games on there, so it will like take some time. So I'm not gonna do that, but it helps to do it sometimes, at least once to twice a month, to just check that for any errors on the drive, and it will also tell you if your drive is about to die or not, so just make sure to do that. It will also fix problematic parts, therefore giving you more performance in the end. Another thing to consider is that 3.5-inch hard drives are generally much faster than regular 2.5-inch drives. For example, this bigger hard drive went from 250 megabytes per second to around 350 with a burst rate of 307. Burst rate is basically random reads and writes done on that drive, so to up to 307 megabytes per second. That's doing a HDTune Pro test, so you can do the same thing just by googling HDTune Pro, and they have a free trial for like 14 days. It won't take you 14 days to test the drive, trust me, it won't. So yeah, just test that, see if it did any performance improvements. But one thing you'll notice is that sometimes you will not get a massive bump in read or writing speed. What you will have, however, is higher averages. So in my case, it's jumping from here to here. There must have been something within Windows hindering the performance, but it didn't get any faster after applying the rest of the tweaks. Here's why. Because hard drives have a limitation to how fast they can be read from and written to. So what can you do? What you can do is by applying these settings, you actually make sure that the drive has a higher average read and write speed, which is more important. The longer it can stay at the higher average read and write speed, the faster the games will load overall. And that's what's important. Anyways, also it should be noted, hard drives, if you put your OS on the SSD, it will already make your hard drive faster, since your hard drive doesn't have to deal with any of those stupid read and write random operations. So just in case you didn't know that, just trying to explain everything. Another thing, optional stuff. You can try enabling your XMP profile for your RAM. Normally my memory will run like 2143 megahertz. Now it's running at 2666. I believe it is running at that speed right now. Let's see. Yes, it's running at 2666. So just make sure to keep an eye on that. You can enable your motherboard's CPU performance enhancements profiles, which is why I am running at 4.2 gigahertz instead of 3.1 or 3.7. It's because of the profile that I've set, so that's also another thing. And then there is GPU overclocking. So one of my favorite tools to do GPU overclocking with is Msi Afterburner. Msi Afterburner, you might have started to hear my GPU since being more in use now, is Msi Afterburner is a tool that I use for overclocking my graphics cards every single time. There's a really major thing that I detailed in my main setup thing. I'm not gonna show you how you should tweak it, but if you know that your game is CPU heavy, make sure that your frequency and voltage is already at the lowest point at the highest frequency you know is stable. What this will do is it will make sure that your PC is not being held back by the GPU's performance, resulting in stuttering. So if it's not being in use as much, you still get the utmost of performance on your drive. Well, on your computer, that's what's important. Also, my temperature started going down because of the custom fan profile. And yes, I'm running my GPU overclocked. I'm not scared of it. So, yeah. After applying everything from part 1 and part 2, as I mentioned, my friends, most of them noticed a up to 40% performance uplift in most games. They were able to get the most out of their hardware they paid for. One of my friends is running GTA 5 at max settings. Before, he was running it at around 40 to 50 FPS, and now he's running it at like 80. So that was like well, before it was like 60, 70, and now it's at like 80 to 90 frames per second. So that's a massive performance uplift in GTA 5 of all things. Maxed out GTA 5, by the way, at 1080p. Just saying. And yeah, or I believe it's at like 4K actually, because he has a custom resolution set that's really close to 4K. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. You can try GPU overclocking. I'm not gonna show you how to do it, but try and set the custom frequency / voltage curve as I have set over here. So you go over here and you'll notice this frequency and voltage curve. Look up tutorials online how to overclock and test your PC to make sure that the part is running as it should. I've been running this profile for more than 1 or 2 weeks now, and trust me, it was hours and hours of gaming, stress testing, sometimes video editing. So it works. This profile works for my RX 480. So just saying, not every RX 480 can go this high. There are some that will go higher than this. There are some that won't go as high and have to be underclocked in some cases. But if you are lucky enough and know how to fine-tune your frequency, you will be able to have a stable experience, if not even more performance out of your GPU than you had before. That is it. That's all I wanted to talk about and all I wanted to discuss. Again, it's quite a bit of stuff, about an hour-long video discussing the second part of all the tweaks and all the stuff that I did. Just trying to make sure that everything is explained as it should be explained. As you can see, with all the other apps running and OBS recording, it is quite a bit of a heavy task, so I will notice a performance hit while playing those games, especially from the GPU side. But bear in mind, I'm using an extremely high sampling rate to give you, the sharpest text possible. So yeah, thanks again for joining me today. Make sure to pass this video around, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will link the page in the description below. And I hope to see all of you beautiful people sometime in the future.